All right, Jose, so UFC 250 going down in Las Vegas Saturday night. Amanda Nunes, arguably the best female fighter of all time at this point. She is just seemingly unstoppable. If there is anyone that can beat her, what would make Felicia Spencer the woman to do it?
Oh, I think it's an interesting and it's a really good question because a lot of what Amanda Nunes is shown to be susceptible to is like people with a heavy top game and a good ground game. And Felicia Spencer does come up from karate and taekwondo background, but she excels on the ground, especially in her MMA career. She's had her only two wins in the UFC are by submission and TKO on the ground, and then she fought Chris Cyborg to a 3-round decision, which she got beat, but it's one of those performances where she lost but gained a lot of fans. So I would say a fighter that is heavy top game and is just a physically not more muscular, but just a bigger fighter than Amanda Nunes would shine against her, just based on what Amanda Nunes has shown in the past. So I think Felicia Spencer fits that bill to a T, actually.
Well, that said, then what is your prediction for what we'll see from these two Saturday?
I think Amanda Nunes will win. She's the greatest female fighter of all time, but this is not. If Felicia Spencer does win, I wouldn't consider it a massive upset. Of the fighters that Amanda Nunes has fought lately, outside of Chris Cyborg, because I still think if they have a rematch, that's a 50-50 fight, Felicia Spencer has the best chance of winning. I don't say a huge chance, but I am picking Amanda Nunes to win inside the 5 rounds, but do not be surprised if Felicia Spencer pulls off, quote-unquote, the upset, as people are calling it.
Well, I wanted to ask you what you think the fights will be like in the UFC's Apex building anyway. And just to build on that, do you think that just the current circumstances could play into what will happen with this main event on Saturday?
Well, it's interesting you brought up the Apex because for those of you who aren't aware, there are 2 sizes of octagons. There's a bigger one, which you normally see on the big pay-per-views, and then there's a slightly smaller one, like when the UFC holds a lot of their smaller fight night cards. They use it's a physically smaller octagon. There's less space inside, which they use in the Apex. They use a smaller octagon, which plays heavily into the favorite of Felicia Spencer, who there's just less room for Amanda Nunes to move around. So Felicia Spencer can catch her and bring her to the ground much easier. So in terms of the actual octagon, it's clearly in favor of Felicia Spencer. The no fans, it's not as bad as Jacksonville. I was at the fight last weekend at the Apex, and it's not like in Jacksonville where it's a huge arena. Like imagine the TD Garden having the octagon, but then no fans, just an empty arena so everything echoes. The Apex is so small that it still feels like there's some sort of fan base just because of the TV work, the camera people, the broadcast, Dana, and all the UFC staff. So it's not as bizarre as, say, a giant arena, but the small octagon that they use in the Apex will favor Felicia Spencer, that's for sure.